Okay, everyone, so I'm going to give you some tips on how to wrangle this project in. So this is the final project for the landscape graphics and planting design class for this lovely fall 2020 COVID edition. So I've given you some sample drawings from a past project that was somewhat similar to this site. Based on the fact that there is an understory that you're designing. There's an existing tree canopy and an understory below it. And so one of the ways that we represent that is with leaving that upper story canopy as the tree's outlined and going ahead to design belowhand, below that level. And then you kind of render the ground plane and kind of ignore the trees above, because if you were to render all the trees above, you wouldn't be able to see the design work below. And I think a couple of these students did a pretty good job on their legends. Legends take a lot longer than you think, so plan for a lot of time. I'm going to say plan for 8 hours of time, then you'll be good. Generally, we have a couple different legends going on. So one is for our plant material and one is for our materials. And you can see that this student broke those out into two pieces. And in this case, they used two different methods to represent legends. The first one they use symbolically for the furnishings. They use the different patterns of paving material and furnishings in there. And then on the plants, they actually use numbers. They could also use plant symbols. So you can see all these little symbols down below. In this case, they just drew a number and pointed to it. And so everything that looks the same is that same plant. The other way is you could draw this little symbol up on the legend itself. So you can kind of point to it with numbers, letters, or draw the symbols up there. So that is, I think, a good example of a legend that you guys have available as a reference in the project file. I'm going to stop sharing because I have to open up each one individually. Okay. Same one. So here's a legend. It looks like this particular person used symbols for both plants and hardscape. So you can see they've got little miniature symbols in here for the plants, so not using numbers, but go ahead and filling out symbols for each one. Now you can do this with your architectural style writing, or you can print out these legends in Word or Excel and then tape them down onto your paper using Scotch tape and then draw the little symbols next to them. If you use Scotch tape and you're careful with it, when you run that through the printing machine, it actually doesn't, it kind of becomes invisible. So that's what we typically do if we're going to attach a legend like that. Now I've asked you guys to include the scientific botanic name and some container sizes, because I want you to do a little bit of research on plants, since this is a planting design class. So if you haven't taken Plant ID, I wanted to go through a few sites where you could research plants. Go online. So I really like Village Nursery, now kind of called Tree Town. There's the growing side, which is Tree Town, and then Village Nursery is where you would actually go and buy the plant material. I'm going to go to their website first. You can see they've got a lot of locations across the country. We're going to go to California, maybe, architects and designers. So Susie is our local representative here in San Diego. She is out of the site off Governor Drive. It used to be Marcos Nursery, if you're familiar with that. Susie's a great resource for designers. So, you know, feel free to reach out to her if you're working on a design and you need to know if a plant is going to perform well. That's her job as a liaison to designers. So she's a great resource as you go forward. I'm going to go on to the architects and designers page. So they've got some lists usually on here. Horticultural encounters. They usually have a list of past plants they do once a year, introducing new varieties to the industry. But if you go on their availability site, they post about it every couple times a month, their wholesale plant list. So what's good about this list, it's going to download in Excel, of course. I forgot that it was in Excel. Get this open. I have it on Excels. Okay. So I've got to stop sharing again. Okay. So on this village nursery list, they're a local nursery, and what they do well is list the sizes of plants, certainly the species that are readily available to our region. Zoom in. Zoom. So I'm going to scroll down. So Buxus macrophylla is our boxwood. That's very commonly used in classical design. So you can see they provide the scientific name, the common name, and then if you were to scroll over here, you would see what sizes are available in each different yard. So that particular plant comes in a 1 gallon size. It doesn't seem to come in a 5 gallon size. Let's find some that are bigger. Where are all the larger? Let's see, Raphiola should come in a bunch of sizes. Oh, of course it doesn't. Are they? So it looks like they've categorized them by container size. So if we see this agave americana, these are big specimens and they're in a 24-inch box. That's normally what we buy a tree in. But if I'm going to go up here, the agave americana. Here's the agave americana in a 5 gallon, probably available in a 1 gallon also. Scroll all the way to the top. So when I did a little research on container sizes, it's a bit confusing because there's so many different container sizes around the country. And then nurseries will refer to them in like number 10, number 7. So in our part of the world, we tend to relate them similar to how Village is showing it as a 1 gallon, a 5-gallon, a 15-gallon. Those are usually your shrub sizes. When you get to 15-gallon, some of the trees are available in that size. The tree sizes generally come in that 15-gallon, 24-inch box, 36-inch box. If you want a big heritage tree, we might call that as a 48-inch box or a 72-inch box. If you're doing little ground covers, those might come in flats. So that's a big square and you cut little plugs of that and plant that in. Or sometimes they'll sell them in a 4-inch pot. So Village doesn't carry any of the 4-inch pots, I don't believe. They carry flats, which are probably somewhere in this availability. But it's a nice resource to see if the plants you're selecting, especially if someone's paying you to do design, to make sure that they're readily available in our region. Because you can research plants and then have them not be available. I won't be grading you on that. I just want you to practice researching that. So that's one area to figure out container size. And then we will go on to a few of these nursery sites so that you can actually see some tools to help you research them. Screen again. Okay, so it's asked me for my zip code. I'm hoping that might help me. It might kind of tailor the recommendations to our region. So Monrovia is a wholesale grower. Village Nursery and Treetown are one of their local growers for Monrovia, but they keep a really nice listing of their plants. So if you were to go plants at the bottom, here's Plant Finder. And you can see you can search by common names or botanic names. So we talked about agave, so I could just click on A, maybe. That's my name. So I'm going to search by botanic name. Where's find my search? Botanic name. Start a new search. That's my name. They have changed the way this works. Back here. So I'm searching by agave. I can pull up its profile that way. So this is a blue glow agave. It's a little small accent plant that's gotten pretty popular. It's gonna tell you what its watering needs are, how fast it grows, what is the landscape size, how to care for it. Here's the overall size. That'll be important as you're drawing these little shrubs on your plan. You'll want to be conscious of how wide they get. So this gets 2 feet wide because that's how big you want to draw your circle. Or you can sometimes, for the smaller plants, just put a hatch in, save yourself a little bit of time. The other way to use this is by selecting a zone. Now they only have the USDA zones, so we're about in zone 8. We tend to use the sunset zones. So I could search by zone is not a bad idea. Maybe I want a perennial, so a small plant that doesn't need to be planted every year. It might get 3 or 5 or 7 years out of it. Maybe I want a low water plant, and maybe I want it to bloom in spring. So I can filter my choices and I can search with these. I can do by exposure. So it's going to give me some different choices that will fit that criteria. It'll be, you know, designed for our zone. You can put height, you could put, there's a lot of different filters in there, but it comes up with some suggestions. So one tool for you to work with. Let's also go to San Marcos Nursery. San Marcos Nursery. It's in Santa Barbara, but they have a really nice website also. So they've got this plant database to the left. So if I'm going to search for agaves again, type that in. It has all the different ones that pop up. So we just looked at that blue flame agave. So if I click on it, it gives me a very detailed profile. And I think what San Marcos does well is they're really watching the plants in their nursery and in local botanic gardens. And I think they have a really good sense of how big that the plants get in kind of the Southern California region. So they're saying 2.5 feet tall to 3 feet wide. So they think it gets a little bit bigger. And it tells you maybe some of the crossings that it is. It gives you all the important data like full sun, can it handle seaside, which means salinity? Is it, you know, water conserving? So that's another great site for you. San Marcos Growers out of Santa Barbara. One of my favorites. If you're interested in native plants, we have a local native nursery that has a good plant research. So this is Las Positas Nursery's native plants. They have a small location in Fallbrook, but we can search for native plants. Let's see if we go to native plants here. It's got a bunch that you can click on. So say I don't, maybe I know I want a salvia or a sage plant. I'm going to go with scientific name because then they all get grouped together. So here's a salvia is scientific for sage, and you can see all these different sage plants that they have. So maybe I'm, oh, hummingbird sage, maybe that's interesting. So then they've got profiles on each one, again, with a lot of information about the mature size. Now this is designed more for restoration, so sizes are in metric, so meters and centimeters, which can kind of throw people off. So just be careful with that. But really great information, tells you where it's native from, how it responds to some of the different soil types in our region. So really great resource for native plants. If you wanted to search by water use, as a professional, we use this site, the WUCLs, the Water Use Classification of Landscape Species. This is the industry standard. So I would get onto this site and go to the plant list. This is through Riverside, UC Riverside. And there's a plant search database. So we could plug in our city. Why don't we have San Diego? Oh, it's not in, there it is. San Diego. Now, if I know the plant name, I can certainly search for it and pull up its profile. If not, I could say I want a low water plant that's a, we'll go with a tree this time. And I can search the database, and it's going to give me a bunch of different options. So maybe I want to, let's see, Circe, that's a native. eucalyptus. How about the old olive, Olea Europa? So it's highlighted what region we're in because we plugged in our city. So it's telling me that this is a low water use tree. It's going to give me a little bit of description of how tall it is. It's going to say it wants good drainage and full sun, so you get a little teaser there. But that's another way to research different plant types. Sunset Western Garden book is fabulous too. They have a lot of plant lists. It's like deer resistant plants, moon garden plants, water wise plants, native plants. They are currently out of print, so they're in the process of redoing the book. So it might be hard to get your hands on one of them, but if you have one laying around the house, great place to go. All right, so I think those are some good sites to get you going. And Johanna, I see you logged in. So if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
I'm fine.
Okay. Well, I'm going to stop recording.